Long ago, nestled between two ancient mountains in the quiet countryside of rural Japan, there was a small village called Tanamura. In that village lived a young man named Ryo. Ryo was 25 years old, restless, lost, and exhausted. From the moment he opened his eyes each morning, his mind was already running. Thoughts about yesterday's mistakes, worries about tomorrow's problems, an endless storm inside his head that never stopped. He couldn't sleep properly. He had stopped laughing. Even the simple joy of a warm meal felt distant to him. His neighbors noticed. His mother worried, but Ryo himself didn't know how to explain what was wrong, only that something deep inside him felt broken. One autumn evening, an old farmer told Ryo about a hermit who lived high up on the eastern ridge. His name was Master Kenji. Years ago, Kenji had been a respected physician of the mind in the city of Osaka, brilliant, sought after, known across the country. But at the peak of his career, he walked away from it all. He gave up his clinic, his reputation, his city life, and chose instead a small wooden house surrounded by pine trees and birdsong. People said he had found something in that silence, something rare. Occasionally, a lost young soul would find their way to his door, and occasionally, he would teach them. Ryo heard this and felt something stir in his chest, a fragile thread of hope. Maybe, he thought, this man can show me what I cannot find on my own. The journey took 4 days, through fog-covered trails, across a shallow river, up a steep rocky path lined with cedar trees. Ryo walked alone with nothing but a small bag and his heavy thoughts for company. When he finally arrived, he saw it a modest house, almost hidden beneath climbing vines and maple leaves turning red with the season. On the wooden steps outside, an old man sat with his eyes closed. His breathing was slow. His face held the kind of stillness that Ryo had never seen on any living person before. Ryo approached carefully and bowed low. "Master Kenji," he whispered, "forgive me for disturbing you. My mind gives me no rest. I am tired of my own thoughts. I've come a long way, hoping you might help me." The old man opened his eyes slowly. They were calm and clear, like still water. He said nothing for a moment. Then he smiled and stood up. "Come," he said simply. "I have a task for you." Kenji led Ryo to a small courtyard behind the house. He picked up a plain ceramic bowl and filled it with water, completely full, right to the very edge. One slight tilt, and it would all pour out. He handed the bowl carefully to Ryo. "Walk from this courtyard to the stone gate at the edge of my property," Kenji said. "Then return here, but not a single drop must fall, not one." Ryo looked at the bowl. Then he looked at the old man. It seemed like a strange thing to ask, but he nodded and accepted. The path to the stone gate wound through a small, busy area near the market lane. Merchants called out their prices. Children chased a dog between the stalls. A cart rattled loudly across the uneven road. Two women argued cheerfully over the price of persimmons. But Ryo noticed none of it. His entire world had shrunk to the size of one ceramic bowl. He watched the surface of the water the way a hawk watches the ground. Every step was deliberate. Every breath was controlled. His eyes did not wander once. Slowly, carefully, one foot, then the other. By the time he reached the stone gate and turned back, the world around him had gone completely silent. Not because the noise had stopped, but because Ryo had stopped hearing it. He returned to the courtyard and held out the bowl. Not a single drop had spilled. The journey took 4 days. Master Kenji looked at the bowl and nodded slowly. "Well done," he said. "Now tell me on your walk, did you see the children playing by the roadside?" Ryo blinked. "No." Did you hear the merchant arguing near the cart? No, Ryo said, now looking genuinely surprised. I heard nothing. I saw nothing. I was only watching the water. Kenji sat down quietly on a flat stone and folded his hands in his lap. Is the answer you walked 4 days to find? Ryo looked at him, confused. Your suffering, Kenji continued, does not come from your past. The past is already finished. It cannot be changed. And your future, it has not arrived yet. It may never arrive the way you fear it will. But your mind lives in both places at once, always looking backwards with regret, always looking forward with dread. And so it has no room left to simply be here. He pointed to the bowl in Ryo's hands. When you carried that water, you were not thinking about yesterday. You were not afraid of tomorrow. You were only here, in this step, in this breath, in this moment. And what happened to the storm in your mind? Ryo was quiet for a long time. Then, almost in a whisper, he said, It stopped. Peace, said Master Kenji softly, is not a place you travel to. It is not something another person can give you. It is not found in a quiet mountain, though the mountain helps. He smiled. Peace is what remains when you stop leaving the present moment. It was always there, underneath the noise, waiting. Ryo bowed his head. He stayed there for a long time without speaking. When he finally lifted his gaze, the sky above the ridge had turned the deep orange of late evening. The first stars were faint and distant. A single crow crossed the sky, heading home. Master, Ryo said quietly, I think I understand. To quiet the mind, I must bring him back to right now, to what is real, to what is actually here. Kenji nodded once. Practice it the way you carried that bowl, he said, gently, without force. And when you lose it, and you will simply return. Ryo descended the mountain the next morning. The path was the same. The fog was the same. The rocks and the cedar trees were unchanged, but Ryo was not the same person who had climbed it. Something had settled in him. Not perfectly, not forever, but like the surface of water after a long wind finally passes. Still, clear, present. He had not found peace in a mountain village. He had remembered that it had been inside him all along, waiting quietly beneath every anxious thought, waiting for him to simply stop and breathe and return. If this story touched something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you are new here, welcome. Every week, we bring you stories like this one, stories that carry something real. Until next time, breathe slowly and come back to now.